All right, good evening, board. You're live and we're recording. And just a reminder, when we have a public comment, to have the speaker come to the podium so we can get them on camera. Thank you.
Yes, okay, great, thank you very much. It is 7:20. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Julie, would you do roll call, please?
Sure. Barbara Dayton?
Here.
Tim Frazier?
Here.
Pat Braban? Eric Frederickson?
Here.
And Emma Field is absent.
And prior to this, we were in executive session going over contract negotiations, personnel, and hiring. And at this time, if we could all rise with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We have a work session this evening and a number of items on here, and don't let me whip through them without remembering to go to public comment after each one. So we're going to start with a concussion management presentation by John King, our athletic director. So thank you so much for being here, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
Sure, thanks for having me. So concussion management, this is something that was a really big topic probably several years before COVID, and they were talking professional sports, especially the NFL and football. And something that schools started doing with this was do some impact testing. Basically what that is it's a baseline test for their students. I'll show you a little bit how it varies with different districts and what they're doing locally and through Suffolk County, and what we could do to be proactive with helping to manage concussions. So the objective is create a Springs concussion protocol. We have probably one in place, but this would be something in writing, and I have that to share with you tonight. That consists of education with coaches, parents, community, the baseline testing that I mentioned before, and I'll explain how that would work, proper sideline management, which our coaches are up to date on as far as their concussion, like how to deal with those protocols, and proper return to play protocols. And then the goal is to implement this neurocognitive testing for the impact test as soon as this year for students in grades 7 and 8. And in the future, dealing with grade 7 being that the test is good for 2 years, and they do receive this again in 9th grade of high school. So first, what is a concussion? It's a mild traumatic brain injury. Typically occurs through a jolt to the head. Could be, football is obviously a big topic with it, but could happen in other contact sports. Students hitting heads, hitting the ground after falling, running into something like a post. The recovery will vary with concussions depending on the severity, which the baseline test will help with. Avoiding re-injury is very important with this because an overexertion, because it could lead to a more severe concussion and more likelihood for another concussion to occur. So what are we doing now? The coaches currently must take, as part of their coaching requirements, a concussion training course through the Heads Up program. So they take the course, they provide me with a certificate, they need this in order to coach at our school. The coaches are instructed that if a concussion is suspected, athletes are immediately pulled from play, monitored by the coaches. Parents are then notified, and the athlete will go seek out to a medical provider for attention. Other schools. I made some phone calls to some other districts. Basically, they still have to go, obviously all their coaches still need to go through the Heads Up program, as our coaches are doing. About a little less than half, though, are using this impact testing. So it varies through Suffolk County. Some districts are doing nothing. Some districts are doing all their athletes, like East Hampton and Southampton are doing. They do what I had mentioned before, testing their 7th grade and 8th grade students, and the test being good for 2 years. Some schools, I reached out to Hampton Bays, they just test the football kids. And then there are some that just test just the athletes. So it does vary, and it doesn't hurt for us to be proactive here. So what is the impact testing? So it's a cognitive test. It takes about 20 minutes. The kids would do this at the beginning of the school year during phys ed. We do locks and stuff at the beginning of the year anyway. So they can take out their Chromebooks, we sit them in a quiet space, they take this test. Many high schools, colleges, and professional sports use something similar. And it can help determine the severity of the head injury and when the injury is fully healed. So the information that's received goes into a database. If the specialist on concussions asks for our baseline test, which we would have somebody that would be our person of contact, maybe it's Fort Jeff or Stony Brook, St. Charles. Student would get sent there if they want to see the specialist, and they might conduct that same test to determine the severity of the concussion. It's essentially a baseline assessment of the brain, and the cost of the test would be, it's around $420 to $5 for the year in order to test our kids.
To test all the kids.
Yes.
Was that per student?
Yep, not per student. It's like X amount of tests they give you. I think it's like 200, which will more than, that's their lowest package that they have, so that'll more than cover what we need. It would definitely cover us this year with 2 grades having to do, and then moving forward, we can see if we can work with that.
And the results of these tests, they're kept, they're like all health information kept private to the
It
student?
is private, yeah. Everything's kept private in the database that specialist would be able to access, whether we use, so like I said, St. Charles or Stony Brook. Because currently now what we do, which is still, I feel good, if I just coach girls soccer, if I have a girl that is suspected of a concussion, immediately remove them from play, sit them on the side monitor, I find out how you getting home today. All right, make sure, I'll walk them to the car, explain to mom or dad or whoever they're with, this is what I noticed today, they didn't seem right, even though she looks fine right now, please keep an eye on it tonight, you might want to go see a specialist. It's kind of how we're taught through that program to deal with it. So this is just something extra, especially with the severity of what concussions can do. I did reach out to Dr. Schoenfeld to see what she felt, who's our chief medical provider. And her overall summary is that it's a useful tool, which when used in combination with a good history and physical exam can add useful information. It cannot diagnose whether or not a child has had a concussion or has recovered from it. Symptoms are what we call conspecific, such as difficulty concentrating, decreased memory, increased response time. That's basically what the test does. It tests those different areas on the computer. Many mental health problems cause the same symptoms. Many teens, especially those for whom sports participation is an important part of their life, suffer from anxiety and/or depression when those activities are restricted. Same can happen when you take away their screens, especially cell phones, with the well-meaning intention of helping them to recover. The emotional response of the restricted activities can lead to symptoms that overlap with those of concussion. Concussion specialists tend to overdiagnose and overtreat and do not have the advantage of really knowing the child and the family well enough to assess the mental health aspect. It has been a problem. So this is coming from her. So this is kind of like a mixed thing that, a lot of districts are doing this one thing, but our medical provider feels this way. So then I asked her, well, is there any harm in doing this and being proactive? And her response was that there isn't. It's how the results tend to be used or misused, which she explained before. I guess there are different specialists and some might overdiagnose. There have been many changes in how we treat concussions over the years. From talking with Section 11, I asked them, well, what are schools doing? And schools started by doing this, like I said, pre-COVID. Kind of took a dip then when there weren't any sports really going on. And now you've seen it start to rise again in just how we can be proactive about dealing with concussions. So if you click on the Springs concussion policy, this is something, I know it's small, sorry, that I was looking to do and at least have in writing for us. So the top part there is basically what I already said on the slides, the overview. What is a concussion? Remove the student from play. Creating a concussion management team. So that would be myself, the school nurse, school physician, and any specialist. And it's our job to also give information out to the parents and our coaches. If you scroll down, Julie, get a second. There we go. Oh, just a little bit higher. There you go, thank you. So education, basically that would be, again, providing some pamphlets, some information to parents, things that they could look out for. We include it with our medical packets we send home with the kids when they sign up for sports. I was just sending some home today for the next season. The impact test, which I went over, we would be doing with our 7th grade students. Proper sideline management, which is all part of the training. Teaching our coaches to make sure that they're removing anybody from play, do not let them go back. I had it happen with a girl today, like I said, there was an athletic trainer at Southampton, said she didn't look right. Nothing happened as far as a head injury, but she wasn't feeling correct. Make sure I see the parent when we get back to the school. She sat by me. And the proper return to play protocol and clearance, that's all coming from the medical provider or specialist. That's not going to be our determination on when to send the kid back. These students are usually under some kind of program where it's, all right, you can return to school, but you can't do this, you can't look at a screen. Then after that, you can come, you can do everything, no physical activity. We have a student right now going through these protocols. And if you go to the next page, Julie. Oh, never mind, sorry, I can go back up. My fault, I thought that was the end of the page. Yep, back down. Right there, thank you. And the nurses will oversee the return to play protocols. So I'm in constant contact with the 3 nurses down there as far as what stage the students are in with their concussion and what they're allowed to do. Julie, if you can go back to the slide show, please.
And I'm sorry, you're saying this is a current Springs policy?
No, that's one that document's not approved yet, obviously.
Right, yeah, because this doesn't sound like something that should actually be a policy. It sounds like something that's really a procedure.
Yeah. So
Which is not actually a numbered policy in the policy manual, but I'm not sure which current policy
I'll check with Miriam.
would have that in there. And this could be like a procedure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Protocol.
Associated with that
Also,
policy.
just, again, it's great information, but again, I've had really personal experience with this with my daughter going through concussion at the high school level and going through the protocols. It was basically tested, one of the first kids that were tested back 5 or 6 years ago. But my question, and the thing that concerned me the most about this is just making sure that parents understand and teachers understand when a child is in that concussion mode, they really have to look at it differently about what they require them to do because they aren't able to manage the things that other kids are able to do. Sometimes I think parents and teachers forget that they have to take it really seriously. It's not something you can readily see or understand, but it really affects the way cognitively they're able to process information.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest, in addition to the Springs concussion, say, procedure, that teachers have an area in there where they're given some guidelines about what to expect.
Yeah, that would be great. That's a great idea.
Because, being there with my daughter and going through the protocols and listening to the doctor ask her to do things and her not being able to do, like count back from 100 to 90 or walk in a reasonable way. And you see, although you don't notice it at first, you didn't really see how it cognitively really affects young children and their ability to just process things around them. And they really mean it when you don't look at a screen. And for a lot of our young children, that's a huge one. You really can't look at a screen. You can't get involved in watching television or your computer. And so you can't do some of the work teachers are requiring you to do because you just can't process. And it actually damages the healing process of that concussion.
Yep, sure. Yeah, so I think teachers in that policy would be.
I think the more you can communicate those things, the better off our children are going to be here at Springs in this, because it happens. It happens.
And this is not just a football thing.
No.
I mean, this was volleyball.
This was volleyball, She got hit in the head with a volleyball. But it can happen in the classroom. It can happen when you fall down. It can hit your head against something. It's something.
Yeah, even with younger than that.
Right.
And that's why with testing, I know like with Southampton, East Hampton testing for all their middle school students, they're the ones that can, the bigger kids, and they're doing something in a
you're
recess.
playing with balls, and you're playing. You've got your Gaga pits out there. That's a
big place to get hit in the head with a ball, you know, I mean, sometimes it happens. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you don't have to go to the next one, because that would be something, it was just a parent letter that I didn't have connected here, but it gives the parent what the test is, and it's not gonna do any harm with them. But I can share that at a later point with the board as well. You go to the next slide, Julie. So I guess my recommendation would be if we could purchase the impact testing, conduct these tests for our 7th and 8th graders now. Moving forward, then you would just have to address the 7th graders since they do receive it again in 9th grade. Our neighboring districts are currently using these tests. I don't think it could hurt to have the baseline test, especially if a concussion specialist inquires about it. We have that information now to give them. And what I'm going to do is continue to look into better ways for our school to manage concussions going forward. If, you know, as years go on, if there's something new that comes out that districts are doing or that I receive at athletic director conferences that I go to, then that's something I can come back here and share with all of you. But what they're doing and what we can do just to be on top of it.
So are our middle kids who are, say, on an East Hampton sports team, are they getting this assessment there or no?
Well, they were. Something happened this year. From my understanding, they were in the past getting this test. Something happened this year where they weren't, and nobody knew about it. I wasn't made aware. It wasn't until, unfortunately, actually one of our students that played football received a concussion, and I was in contact with the parent, and I said, I had no idea that they were not doing it. And I even asked some of the coaches at the time. And I know they have a new athletic director too, and her answer was, she was disappointed in it because she said, yeah, I would think they're all part of the same team, that they would all receive the same test. So she was under the impression that was happening, so was I. And apparently every year prior, that was done with both of our kids. Okay. So something happened, I don't know if it had to do with nurse's office or, because I believe they go through the nurses over there, but it's another reason why I would like to, if we have it, then all of our kids are done anyway. Yeah. So then we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it was disappointing at the time to find that out, but I know the understanding was that it was supposed to be done.
Right, okay.
Is not mandated.
I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, you test for that, it's a big deal. It's not. It's just a snapshot of your cognitive activity that can be used to help diagnose a concussion or not, depending on the situation or the occurrences or whatever. But the specialist really, if you have it, it does add to the ability for them to diagnose it. If you don't, it really doesn't hamper them from doing it. It's just another instrument they can look at to help them diagnose.
Sure.
And it's a very small amount of money to do all of our 7th and 8th graders this year and going forward, all of our 7th graders, whether they play a sport or not, because they could get hurt in the gym.
Yeah.
Well, I think it helps them. It helps educate them when they go through the process of taking the baseline test, because it gives you an opportunity to talk to them about what it is. Then they see actually, and if they ever have a concussion, they'll really understand what a difference there is between what their baseline was and what they're experiencing.
And it'll raise the awareness for the teaching staff as well. It's just shows that we're taking it seriously, and that it's a sign to recognize if a student goes through it. I think your experience, it's not always easy to tell a student who is concussed, they show up to school 2 days later, and all of a sudden they have the same expectations as someone else, and the student is struggling. It fits right into our social emotional learning program and committing to walking the walk. And we're saying that we're doing that. This just fits in line with that belief system.
Yeah. Well, so that's my recommendation as far as this. I know on the other slides I have coming up are just some other things that I have been working on down in the athletic department that I wanted to share with you. I figured I'm here, I might as well have a day.
Might as well, bring it on.
All right, so we'll do letter C.
Oh, sorry, there's something.
That's okay.
B.
It's fine. B was logos, and then
Right, so
C was the rest of John's stuff. Yeah.
All right, John.
Let's go for this.
So this is something I was actually in touch with Mr. Frederickson or through email when he was sending some football pictures, and I mentioned about adding some things to a new website. And I know there's going to be a new spring school website in the future, so I wanted to create an athletics website. I constantly have, parents asking for forms and things, and I know instead of going through John or whoever to get things on there, now I can just have things myself. So on this website, I have where I post things on Twitter. If people want to follow me on Twitter, I post things from phys ed and athletics and when teams win and stuff. And I know Ms. Winter adds it to the little scroll there on the side of the school website. If you click on, Julie, important forms and documents, that first button there.
And all of this can be loaded onto our new website.
Right, it would be like the sports.
And he will
page.
have his own tab, sports, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess there needs to be access. This is something I'm still, obviously, I never made a website through Google Sites, but
He did a great
if you
job.
believe me that when you click on all those things that say you need access, all those, if you keep scrolling down, it's the sports physical form. So if somebody needs to go to their doctor, the health form that goes out in my packet, the parent consent form that goes home in the sports packet, the information on the sudden cardiac arrest, and the big one that everybody always is looking for is the athletic travel release form. I know it was put on Parent Square by John, but sometimes files are tough to find on there, I'm finding as well. So parents, they can just go here, they can get the travel release form. They print it, sign it, fill it out, scan it, and I can print it out and their kid can get my signature and an administrator's. If you go back, Julie, to, or I guess the button at the top right, oh, that's fine too. I know talking with Mr. Frederickson about making it more user-friendly too, if you click on fall sports, since we just did that, I have pictures there that scroll through of all of our sports teams. Of course, you need access.
Well, there's one.
So
Good one.
what was down there, it's access to folders in my email that I'll just have to change, can share with anybody. And it's for every sport team in the fall. So when a parent or something, which I get all the time, they send pictures or videos of that specific sport. I had JV golf, I had some football. I just dump it in that folder. Now a parent can go on here, click that, and they might be able to see their kid in some pictures. And then it also had, in the other area that wasn't available, the schedules for all the sports teams will be in there as well. I do have the link at the bottom with helpful websites to Section 11 that I instruct parents to go to if they're looking for any information, and it's got my contact information at the bottom.
I'm suddenly wondering about like the legal of having like a group of photos that can just be accessed basically by anyone in the public coming to the website. We would certainly have certain kid photos on there, but would we actually want folders of photos that anyone can access on there?
As long as there's not names attached to them.
Right.
Correct. And we know those kids, do we have any this year that have,
Not that I'm aware of.
yeah,
Opted out.
they have to opt out rather than opt in, so.
Has that form been resent out yearly?
Yeah, that's part of, they can't get into eSchool without checking all those boxes. The code of conduct, the parent release form. They want to see their kid's schedule or their child's teacher, they have to. go through.
Work cards.
And none of this stuff is live yet. This or the other
Right.
website I'm going to show you next, none of this stuff is live. That's why I'm bringing it here, so you can all see, and then let me know your thoughts and what you think I should go through and or not. So that's kind of the gist of this here with the website, and it'll evolve as I get better with this. And then the last thing.
Doug, do you thought of using some of your students to help you build this website?
It's a good idea.
It's pretty smart students.
Well, I don't know why you're doing a separate website when we're doing a whole new website and there will be an athletics tab on there. And then we have somebody putting all this together and you don't have to build a website.
Well, this will be put right on there.
Right, but the way that they're writing, however they're coding their website could be different from what you're going ahead and setting up. So I think you might want to have that conversation. No?
Google is where all of our teachers have most of their websites, and I've already checked with the company, they can be transferred over here.
So we can have other websites on our website.
Yes.
Links.
But that's how our teachers use a couple of platforms for their websites right now, but Google is the primary one, and that's the one that I already checked with the company that can be easily transferred over here.
Right, like the documents are what they are. They just need to be linked in through whatever. So this is just content that will
Correct.
exist on the new website.
The last thing I want to do, I work with BSN, that's the sporting company that we do all of our athletic stuff through. So they've created a sideline store, it's called, and this is a store that would be open year round for our community. Deals in a lot of athletic wear. We are still using, I know the PTA does different sales. I know there are some local companies that still do some of our sports team sales that deal with just one generic sweatshirt, but this is something for everybody in the school, and they have a lot of different items here. With decals for walls, they have the Yeti coolers over there, and hats and shirts. And currently, I just stuck with the letter S. This thing can evolve any way we want it to, with eventually coming up with a school logo or, a sports kind of logo, like an Osprey maybe in the future. You said, Julie, I can go up there and.
I think you just touched on that,
Touch
yeah,
it?
it should be set up.
All right, this way you don't have to click about here. You could design your own thing. You can.
Sorry, not.
All right. All good. Can I do it on your computer, Julie? Is that okay or not?
Yeah, use this.
And you could shop by brand. Certain things obviously they get a little bit more expensive, but like even here, if you want Nike or Under Armour, it's gonna, it'll cost a little bit more for things, which we all know by some of us going to those stores. But if you want to go with the BSN sports brand, which still looks nice, they're a little bit more reasonable in prices. And what kids can do too is they can even go in and design their own. There's plenty of different sayings here. If you have a student in the school that played, let's say they're going to go play baseball. It comes up all different designs. So you can kind of design your own thing. And again, this is open year round, and we would be getting 10% back. That goes back to athletics. Like I said, I deal with them fairly often with all of our uniforms and other equipment. So it's just an added thing to get some more spring stuff around the buildings for the community.
Okay, and then the athletic department would be receiving funds from sales.
Yeah, they would give us a credit to the BSN, and again, I use that to get new uniforms for the teams.
Right. Okay.
Any other equipment, somebody needs a bat, somebody needs, another piece of equipment. So we would have that as well.
All right.
So it's not live. I wanted to share it here, and if, I got the okay, it could be good to go.
We could even do a bocce sweatshirt.
You could do whatever you want. If one of you want a certain, Miss Cleary just mentioned
Curling.
she wants, which I didn't look, a certain type of like polo like this, but in a women's cut. And if it's not there, I just call the guy and he puts it on. If we want to add a certain kind of logo to the stuff, we send it to him. It's on there the next day. And it's year round, where a lot of these companies, because they're smaller and they want to just do one print a million times for how many kids do it, there's a deadline, and then the store opens and closes. This is just, it's going. I believe East Hampton has the same thing.
Are you able to control a little bit of what the selection is, or is it?
I can.
Popular? So you can really, it's totally customizable.
Yeah, they just kind of spit out a bunch of these, different options, but if there was something more specific that we wanted to get rid of or add, we could easily do that. With those sports, and I just clicked on baseball, but it has all of our spring sports listed there, or it could just say athletics. I told him that when I was on the phone. I said, these are the sports that we have that are springs, and he said, okay. And it was simple as him just adding them, and then they all show up like that.
Emma weighed in through an email regarding your logos, and she just wanted me to say that she thought the website was great, and if you decide on one of the ospreys tonight, she would think that the osprey could substitute these S's in some spots where it's appropriate. Okay, and people can add it
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I haven't seen all the different, I know that they were working on a new logo.
Yeah, we
so I
have
haven't
some
seen all
tonight
the
to
ones
show the
that-
board.
But, some kind of, just depending on what it looked like. That's not to be against whatever logo she has to, but like something that's, kind of says sports on, if we're looking for something for like
Talking about this
stationery at
Yes, we are.
school, it could be a little bit different when it comes to like a sports
And we want a nice, fierce,
mascot.
fierce
College,
mascot, and I
yeah.
think we have, there's some good ones
Yes,
there.
there are
So
some
that-
good
that
ones.
was
So that
actually
could be
what we
great.
looked at.
I'm actually looking for a costumed individual.
We have one, Sean.
We have it.
Yeah, one.
You can take it home again.
You can-
It's just like a single.
Are you volunteering to do?
We have two of them, in fact.
I'm not going that far.
There's one in my
But no, that
closet,
could
in
be-
my
You
office right
feathers,
now.
so I-
This one, that can easily be
Or
substituted.
somebody else's sweat.
Yes, that's,
Yeah.
If
She's
you
got
add a
a-
logo on here, you can add 3 different logos, whatever. They'll have all different variations with S's in that spot. And sometimes I think even in the options where it says, right now where it says your logo is on the left, there isn't anything there because we only have one. But if it did, you could,
Like one of the
you
three.
can pick one of the however many
Maybe you want to put up there.
we have put on your shirt. That's not.
Thank you, John.
Wow,
You
you're
could
busy.
do Springs Board of Education, right?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
With like a strong looking osprey.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Healthy osprey.
John.
John, work on that for me. Christmas is coming, okay?
Well, it says it's on, if you scroll to the top, right, it says we got a sale up until the 28th of November, so that should be good enough.
Maybe you talk to the PTA too, they're not offended by this.
No, we did have a discussion with a speaker, one of the members of the PTA.
One of the board members. One of the presidents of the PTA or just a parent of the PTA?
Oh, we can get alumni
It
too.
was a parent, right? Who was it?
Leah Boyle, probably.
Leah Boyle, and they seemed okay with it. I will touch base with them again before going live here, but I don't really know, other than things like barbecues and stuff, I haven't really gotten anything on where they're selling stuff, so if there was a conflict.
Well, they've done it in the past, I'd say the PTA has done it in the past.
I did touch base, definitely, but.
Just don't want to hurt the feelings, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that, and I know that they, like I said, that we do have some local places, I know that there's
Colonel's told us
Mr. Suno does the Out East Originals. She did our basketball and volleyball teams last year. She reached out to me. I sent the information to the teams because I know she can do that super fast. But it's just, it'd be like one of those.
Right,
And
yes.
that's
That's a
something
great
she can
fit,
pump
yeah.
out quick, get to the kids. She only, I think it's offering, I think it's like either like sweatshirt, pant, I don't know. There's a couple items,
Right.
but then there's a deadline of November 16th. So then if you decide after, like my girls soccer, we didn't have this yet, so a lot of them, it's their last year at Springs, they'd be happy to go back in here and buy some soccer gear.
But is having so many choices a good idea, or do you want things to be more unified in terms of what people are wearing?
Well, it's not a uniform.
I don't think it matters, just because as long as it says Springs on it, I think the more Springs stuff we see around the school and in the community, I think would be a cool thing.
Well, the issue is Bob up there.
Even with the PTA, there are going to be things that you have camaraderie with that are the same sweatshirt for an event or something like that. But if you do want the option to have your own style, you can have the uniformity with what you have here and have the options.
Yeah, and I
So
think a lot,
you can really have
they're
both.
bringing to events too, right? Like I
Right.
think at the back to school barbecues and stuff like, I see them with like boots and stuff, selling it, and go ahead, and I think they'll get they seem to get some great response from that as well. But for holidays and other things, and especially the sports kids that just want some extra stuff, I mean, I know for myself, I'll be ordering a bunch. I think there's staff members that would love to have some green, because a lot of them don't.
It's a great way to engage with the future website too, when you shopping. Shopping is an engaging, naturally engaging thing.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, John, so much.
So I guess we're going, jumping from one to another here without questions. So if anybody has any questions at this time, call in or here in person, either of you.
We have no
Um,
comments.
Okay, that would be either on concussion or the athletic website. So if someone does call in, just give us a heads up, okay? So we might as well look at some logo options that we
Yes.
have.
Julie?
We got, there's 2 files.
Right, I sent you the most recent one.
Yep, there's that file. And then we have this file.
So what Emma was able to do is take some of the pictures that our students did and put them in a graphic format.
Yeah.
I think they're all at the bottom
No,
altogether.
no,
Is
no,
that
they're
all of
not.
them?
No, no. it's-
Yes, that's all,
go.
that's all of them.
No, it's not.
No?
No. But there, stop.
It starts there.
Okay.
And the last page, Julie has,
It doesn't have all three
This
that are
one.
below there.
this is the last page.
Right, that's the one with the 4 on it.
Okay.
There's 4 single pages and then the
Yeah, if
fifth
you could just
page.
stop right there. So that's not on the final page. So here we have one without
Without the shell.
the shell and a slightly different angle.
I don't want the shell, the people at Springs want the shell. They still took the
Cat
sign
shell.
down.
Do you
I
know what
think
the
notice
history
that
is?
this-
What?
The font is different. It's
The
same
scallop shell
picture, but
in
it's a
Springs?
different font.
It's been a tradition for a long, long, long time. There used to be entrance signs to welcome to Springs. If you ask Miss Talmadge, the gold sign, they used to steal the gold scallop all the time, remember?
Oh.
So, they're on both ends of, but they're gone when they redid the road over here.
All right, is somebody saying that we can't remove the scallop shell? Is there?
No, they were stealing them.
No.
They would
in
steal
terms
them
of
from the
removing
Yeah, I
sign.
did.
the logo
I
or
said, yeah, I always
something.
thought that scallop show represented Springs,
Okay.
but I could be wrong.
I
But I know when we, a few years back, we talked about getting rid of the osprey. That was a big thing with the community.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be holding a scallop shell in its claws if we don't want it to, right?
No, she's got some
Yeah.
with and some without.
I was a big pool.
So that one's like a pretty fierce,
Well,
predator osprey, right?
that one at the bottom right, I hadn't seen that one up until.
This one right here?
Yeah, the other's a little
I can
bland.
see could work.
Yeah.
This one?
Size-wise.
Feeling sports-wise?
This one?
Right.
Yeah, minus, for,
I would like to put Springs.
well, for the purpose of those shirts, you would just need the bird itself with the
Right.
scallop. You don't
Yeah.
need the rest of it around it, because they'll
Yeah.
be writing whatever on
Do
it.
we have that
And also,
bird
I think
someplace
the
else
one
by
above it,
itself?
too. The one above it, I thought was maybe a good sport one also. Could
It
you
doesn't look like an
back up?
osprey though.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It looks
no,
like
the one
looks like a
up,
falcon.
An osprey is black and white like that. Could you
Yeah.
scroll up one more, Julie?
Like Emma did this?
And that
Yeah.
one. So-
Yeah, either of those two, I agree.
What about the fourth one down?
That one? Trying to find the one that looks like the one in the circle.
I
Should
think
it be
moving
green?
in this direction is good for a sport logo,
Yeah.
I
right?
agree, yeah.
The more block print in Springs is more, you can see it easier on a shirt, if the font is a lot easier to read than, say, the one above it. Blockier.
Yeah. I think font wise, that would be easy changing that around, settling on the graphic is,
Yeah, sports-wise, they offer all those different, sayings too, and just,
yeah.
they could throw that osprey
You just have
on it.
the osprey,
and-
like where the,
Where the shell is now.
The osprey.
I think the image that the website company has is to get our logo, and I told her about the osprey, and then she would look for like a beach background, like similar to some of the other school districts that is the backdrop, and then you have your website on there. But this would be pronounced either in the corner, or,
but the logo shouldn't hold up any other website development because that'll just get popped in there.
No, she's saying that this has to come first. This is
Really?
this is your backdrop, and then everything else gets layered on top of it. So she really can't go too far forward. She's been collecting pictures to do the photos and everything, and then the next
Can you
step
go to the first one again?
is to go back and look at what we want to keep on our current website and transfer over and what we want to recreate.
You can't tell it's an osprey.
You can't, no, you can make it, you can find something that looks like an osprey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like.
it would need
like-
like a lot of black colors in there.
I just,
Those eye pops, I think we've done with that.
yeah, sure, the puppy's gone.
The back row.
I like this, I like the print in a box, though.
I like that, we get even if you could perch the Osprey on a profile, it might look better with the box and springs underneath it. Put a logo of our school logo, not the shirts.
The shell could be above the eye. It's holding the clamshell above the eye.
Yeah.
What's our task here tonight now?
We're just looking at some logo options.
Are they making a decision already? Haven't
No.
voted on it.
No, we don't, I don't wanna make a
No,
decision.
no. I kinda like the font on it, I like the square box, I like, the Eden Ski School District is nice. Well, but the Osprey has to look like an Osprey.
Yeah. So I think we're getting closer from the other one, looked more like an eagle first go around, so we're getting closer.
If you took, hey, take that one there, now scroll down the second one, next one. Keep on going, next one. Go. You see that one on the right-hand side, we get rid of the black, try to make a lot, see the way he's flying over the springs?
Oh,
Take
okay.
that logo, put it on the corner, so it's flying over the corner of the springs, get rid of the, because you still have the box in the center almost. Or even over the center of it even.
Do you like the wings on this one or the wings on the other one? That was
Oh, no,
towards the end.
On 4, I
Yeah.
like the wings on 4 for
Yeah,
sports. At
that's
least.
what I like, but
I'm getting a thing where I was like, what would it look like without the scallop shell? And then suddenly I found the wings were looking like ears, and that looked like an open mouth where you had like the.
Yeah, scallop shell.
oh
Yeah,
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 look at
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
look
Oh,
at that.
I don't think we want it turned
I
into some
see
sort of
that.
wolf head.
Yeah. Oh my
This is
God,
like
Barbara.
the lady in the hourglass.
Yes,
like-
Barbara, that's too much.
Now I can't unsee that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like that image of the old lady, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we want
The
like
wolf head.
an aggressive sort of, attack kind of
Attack Osprey?
osprey, but that definitely looks like that and not,
Do you like the one that Pat liked, the back?
Up top?
No, next one. Next one. We should label these. Next one. Next page. That one right there.
See, to me, that looks more like an Osprey. The wings are a little bit too long, but,
Yeah.
maybe shorten the wing length.
Okay.
well,
But I
and we
like
can tweak these.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
You can.
I'm gonna meet with Emma tomorrow.
that to me looks more like an Osprey.
Yeah.
than-
And then if you box in springs,
And that Springs font on the right is basically all the font that we have on our letterhead, our
Right,
business
it
cards.
kind of
and all
matches
that
what we have
stuff.
now, now we're changing everything.
Yeah.
Well,
That's it.
I think that when we're gonna figure out the font for the website, and they will figure out, we just need to get them the
yes,
osprey.
yes, we need
So
to
I
get them
think
the
that's what we have
Osprey.
to focus on and not the font so much, because especially, just for the athletic purposes, we just need bird. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Shorten the wings a little bit.
Bird.
The raptor, actually.
Let's go right here.
It is a raptor.
This is too funny.
Apex predator.
It looks like a bad bird.
That's-
And this does look like a wolf.
So when does she actually want the logo from us?
As soon as possible.
these are stuff, but-
But we have another meeting in, 2 weeks, so,
Okay.
okay?
I mean, are they not, do they not build the
That's an
structure of the
osprey, right?
website first? But I just,
Here we go.
If you look at Remsenburg's Beyond, there is a back page.
mhm,
You can't put anything on top of that page
mhm.
until you have this page. It's
So I
like
can't just
late,
put like a placeholder there?
but then you're building from the bottom up.
Right. Yeah, but the logo here is just that circle there, next to their name.
I know what's right there.
Go to like departments or school information, click on one of those things and see what happens.
Well, I guess that's their backdrop. I guess it was another district that the backdrop was the whole page.
Like a watermark.
Is it because of the template we chose to go with? Is this not a like template?
Yeah, the newer one that she showed us.
It looks like an old one. Excuse me.
I'll be talking to the web company tomorrow.
Well, we're definitely closer today, so.
Yes, we are.
Move forward.
All right, so should
We
we
waited
move
this
ahead?
long.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of ospreys, we can go to a nest update.
That's an osprey.
So, Emma, is offering her company, to build the platform, and we have the diagrams on how to build it.
Okay.
She's spoken to Eric, about this. Our big task is a pole, a utility pole.
Right.
Is that the web companies?
I'm gonna contact PSE&G and see if they'll do something for us.
Emma mentioned to me, I don't know, she, maybe talk to her, she.
I'll build this.
She
I
thought
thought
she
she
had
did, but she
one.
doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
Is that one that it didn't work out?
Yeah, she does have some, ideas with, someone that can excavate and place the
Okay,
pole in the hole.
we do need the poll, but you were
Yeah.
talking about, okay.
So, we're close.
Okay.
And is this something with that, is it something that we're raising money for still, or is it that we might be able to go ahead with it without that?
I don't think we need to raise money for it. I don't think you're looking at a lot of money here.
Right. All right, great.
The pole was the most expensive part.
We'll have to see what PSEG says.
You gotta talk to Costello Marina. They might have them. They do all the marine work. They might have pylons laying around.
Oh, okay. It's a good
Or
idea.
Rambo. They have pylons.
Well, so we're moving forward.
Okay, great.
Almost there.
Should we stick to like practical things and just go ahead and talk about the storage container and then we
Yes.
can talk about goals?
We talk about the storage container now? Okay, so we were able to get 2 quotes for, both from Casone. One is they're both 40-foot containers. One is for $6,169. One is for $7,700. The difference is the $6,169 is a slightly used, container in good condition. So they will, the other one is brand new. The quote includes, the delivery, but there's also there's also additional charge. It's only $358 for delivery, to paint it all in one color. They'll install the panic hardware on the swing door, install the entry door with the panic hardware, install a vent, because it still does need to be nicely compliant. So there are rules. We don't have to get approval from the state, but there are certain protocols and they're aware of that. This is off a state contract.
So it's
So,
the panic thing in case someone gets shut inside?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and this is off a state contract, so it is compliant.
Okay.
And like I said, it's the $7,700 for the new and $6,169 for the slightly used one. And there is, all the different stuff in here that
But
talks
it's still
about
a state contract.
Copy, do you want to see it?
Do you have a preference for it being used or new?
I think we can go with used because we're gonna paint it anyway. If it has a couple of dings in it, it's not a big deal. Emma weighed in as well, saying that her company has many of these containers. And, the cost savings in paying for just the 2 pods alone, this will pay for itself, in no
It's
time.
guaranteed wind and watertight, even though it's used, so they guarantee it to be wind and watertight.
No change in functionality between the two.
What's the location? You gotta put it.
That's what we need to do. We need to walk the property. We have 2 locations in mind, not along the fence where the other construction trailer was, but turned it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be close to the building when you're looking about transporting stuff. If you're going back and forth to put stuff in it, or putting it over by the other small little building that's over on the softball field.
Shed?
Yeah, near that shed, because that will make, we could put our truck back there and we could pick up furniture or drop off furniture.
And now I understood it was gonna be used for, I think the last we heard was, Kevin, it was gonna be used for both custodial and the sports equipment. How is that gonna work? It's the front load container.
Maybe we can get one that loads on the side.
Those usually
No?
don't. You could put a side door on it, but if you're gonna use it for 2 aspects, somebody's gonna walk over somebody else's stuff.
Can you access it at both ends?
No, they don't have doors on both ends, because when they deliver them, you see which end you want the doors on.
Well, you have to have the panic door
That's the big doors, unless there's no side door on this one, because they usually don't come with side doors, they're shipping containers.
No.
You can cut a side door, and you can make a side
I thought
door.
this was for like furniture and extra stuff like that.
Mostly for furniture, but, you know, if there was any kind of big sports equipment that is seasonal, that, you know, they could move out of their closets, that they don't have to keep pulling it out to put it back.
Right, but as I say, it is, you know, it's 40 feet deep, so the custodial staff that's in the front of it, someone's got to pull that stuff out
I
to get to the
gotcha.
back stuff, you know? And if it's used for sports, is over on the far end of the school, a good spot to have it and transport over. And if custodial staff to put the furniture in it, is it a good idea to put it out by the field out there? You
I'm
know?
not saying that it would be sports stuff that'd be used all the time. I'm saying if he needs to get sports stuff out, you know, seasonal, that's in his way, because now they have to, they're always doing,
I mean, where are you looking to put it and what sport? I mean, if you're talking on that field, you're really just dealing with softball and Coach Crowley and her stuff, which I don't know the width of that container, but if you got a couple of those shelving units like we have in our new storage closets, that might be able to hold the majority of her stuff, and somebody could get by to do whatever they need to do and put towards the rear of the trailer furniture wise. Because you're only talking about one sport. You know, we have the shed over there for baseball and.
Yeah, I would think the first part where the door is, you could put some shelving for sports equipment and then leave a,
They're about 8 foot wide now, right?
they're 8 foot wide, so you could use 4 feet
Yeah.
for the shelving, and then the other 4 feet you could use as a way to get to the back of the container.
7 feet 8 inches wide.
But we've also, Kevin mentioned the 10 foot wide ones. That's why I was skeptical about it. I know there's a certain container size. That one's 7 foot 8.
I don't think that's the one he has
But
to
they're
pay
big-
for.
I think the shelves are about, that we have.
I know you need the space, you know, and I know we need the space, and I know we're trying to maximize the space, you know. We also have a
Well,
brand.
they can make those decisions, Pat. We just need to get them on the container.
We just want your go ahead so that, you know, we can cut the PO and, you know, and we still have time to decide where to put it.
Well, when you,
People need to get back about when they're available for building. But it seems like over here, like, it's basically behind the dumpster is what you're saying.
Yes.
Running along over there. But, right.
It's just closer to the building, it makes it
Yeah.
easy for the staff to pull stuff out as we need it. Right now, we have so much furniture, and we have 2 pods that are filled.
Do we have another pod also?
Yes, we
Site
do.
somewhere?
Yeah, I was insistent that there were 13 pods,
Is there equipment in that pod?
and there was 12 pods that showed up. We haven't brought the pod over yet.
Oh, we're paying for it?
Yes,
We're
we
paying for
are.
storage?
Yeah.
Do we know what's in it? Is it worthwhile stuff or stuff with ditch? No idea.
I have no idea.
And
When we put stuff away, we did not put it away with any kind of organization. We just emptied really fast so that we could open
I'm
up.
just asking soft side, just like know what's in it, you know?
We have one pod outstanding that has stuff left in it from our move,
Yes,
you're saying? Okay.
not from when COVID hit.
Right. So is that going to be filled up the minute it gets here?
No.
Okay.
Again, if it's packed properly, none of those pods were packed properly. We were under a time frame to try to move out furniture and have 8 feet distance between kids, like,
Right. Okay, well, it sounds like everyone's in favor of getting the,
thank
And it
you.
might be worthwhile is to put a side entrance on that. They do them all the time. I mean, they use them as stores over in Southampton.
We can ask them if they do that for us, or
Yeah,
we'll
get a
do
post
it
on it. It'd be
ourselves.
nice to put a secondary door on it.
you gotta.
And as long as it doesn't change New York State's, you know, anything in New York
You
State.
saw so.
or the back, the opposite end or on the side, you're saying?
I would say a side entrance, you know?
That would work great there where that fence is, because we
The side
want it to be
entrance on
long
it.
way.
It also makes it easy for the sports team, not open the big doors. They give you second access to the back and the front. You put a 3-foot door on it. And a couple windows and we have staff housing.
There you go.
Pat, don't laugh. I did see these storage units being placed in other states for housing for
Oh,
staff.
that's 2 blocks over. Right, Cold Stone Highway.
Yep.
I think that's all that way.
Good.
Okay, yeah.
Last one. So at our last workshop, we reviewed these goals. We've had some time to digest them a little bit. They're not very specific. They're very broad. They cover a lot.
Or do you think they cover too much?
Well, something like maintaining 95% or higher for student attendance doesn't take much from us. You know, that's just staying on top of our attendance, and you've been getting those attendance
should be a goal.
reports.
Yeah, but you don't need it to go for your school year. That's something, attendance has always been high at Springs. That's not something that you
No.
really want to put there to.
So we can
Because
remove
it's
that
been
one?
low. It's, usually it's between 97 and 98%.
Yes.
And encouraging parent participation on BOE committees, well, we've done that already. Can we cross something off our list before we've adopted it?
I think it should be like 3 or 4 bullets.
Just both,
Okay.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we talked about it, yeah, I agree with you.
So do you want to get
Go back.
specific on
So,
data, curriculum, or do you want to keep it more broad? Because we do have a lot of balls in the air. If the Ed is got new standards coming out, we're looking at math. Math is just, you know,
I think those first 3 bullets are good.
Well,
Or maybe the 4, because I don't think we have to say about keeping the attendance in. I don't think we have to make it a goal to continue implementing the school-wide second step, because we do that already, and that we're not going to stop
and the
doing
mentoring
that.
program, we do that already.
Right, and the encouraging parent participation, we've already done that. So just focusing on like the first 3 things, it's really important for the goal of improving school culture and student achievement.
well, I'm confused about the whole child, I get that. The family involvement, now, we're going for more stronger security reasons, how are we gonna get more family involvement into the school? Or
No,
outside the school?
you have.
I wasn't at the meeting, so that's what I'm
But you
asking.
need some objective. We don't have an objective
Well,
there
then the
then.
encouraging parent participation BOE committees is that objective, which we reached out to do.
Yeah, you would, in your objectives, you would put monthly parent meetings on different curriculum areas would be a way to do it. You can have,
Could you continue to implement the build relationships between staff, student, and home? You know, include the family in that?
That's with the mentoring program, which I don't know, does that,
Mhm.
well, actually, if the goal includes family involvement, then just leaving all those is fine, but I don't think that we need to say about the student attendance. Or maybe we do, I don't know.
I don't think we need to include student attendance or mentoring program. We need to come up with, besides the board committees, how are we going to increase family involvement? Look at
Some
your,
of the committees are going to inform that, like the wellness committee, the health, safety and wellness committee. I think there are things that are going to go on in that committee that are going to make recommendations to the board. Some of these are going to be, in that the SMART system, you have specific, measurable, achievable. These get a little easier to get your head around once you throw another bullet on there and figure out how we're actually, so in terms of goals, I think these are things that we need to think about, but the emergence of when we're tackling them, if something comes up with phys ed first and then something else, or a committee makes a recommendation, some of these have to eventually become actionable. And if there's an action that's already been taken on that, we can remove it from the list, but we need to figure out what the next action is. The point is it still remains a goal.
mhm.
And we haven't achieved the goal yet. We've just done things that are moving toward that. So we've encouraged parent participation on BOE committees. Now we have to actually sit in committee, make recommendations, be open to them and see how ready we are to implement recommendations that are made. I think a lot of things are going to come out of the committee. Do we have control over attendance? I think when you have community, family, student engagement, those are things that help attendance, but having attendance at 95% is not, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not an actionable goal. We have no
Yeah,
control. over it.
but it's already there.
And it's already there,
It's
right?
like,
So
it's not something that you
so,
why have a goal when you've already achieved it? I mean,
right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've had parents' involvements all the time on committees. Until COVID hit, I mean, there was always parents on committees. You had parents, on subcommittees, you had parents you always had the parents' commitment. You had a lot of parents involved, but, change was when we took them out of the classroom and the reading programs and the art programs and that the parents weren't involved in, And I think that was one of the questions last week. One of the parents,
Yes.
how do I get involved in my classroom with my child?
But
committees.
that's a tough one. Again, it's.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. How do we address that? Because the answer was give us a call. That was the answer that was given to the parent, So I don't know what the family involvement
I don't
is.
consider that as a goal.
Well, maybe the goal is really only that first sentence. And then continue to revise and reflect ESSER requirements, whole child, and increase family involvement. Those are two bullet
That's an
points.
objective?
Two objectives, yes.
I don't think you need them at all. I just think you use the first sentence.
I think
The goal itself, when I'm reading this, when you look at social emotional competence, we don't really have a bullet that, like that is the goal. And not everything that's said here is going to achieve, utilizing data, sharing data, reviewing curriculum. That's not going to improve school culture per se. That might be student achievement. So there might be some consolidation that we can do. And also, since we have a well-written goal, we might look to those bullets to be more actionable items that we can actually process out. Like we've been saying, like some of these we have done. So I guess we could check the box. Some aren't necessarily goals. But what are what is the next step in social emotional competence? What's a program that we might look into? How do you increase family involvement versus what we've done and what new items we might do?
If you look at the self-regulation, the restorative practices,
Right, there, yeah.
We've implemented it.
And that is actually increasing family involvement because parents are involved in that.
Correct.
So is it the maintenance of, is it the next one up? I think that's maybe becomes the question.
Building the restorative justice practice could be an accurate bullet for goal number 1.
Do we want to continue revise to reflect on the ESSER requirements?
Well, here's an outside board. What is the ESSER requirements? Is this for us or is this for the board?
This is the board.
Wait, is that just a comment on there that we're supposed to continue and revise the goal to reflect ESSER requirements, or is that actually part of the goal?
It shouldn't be part of the goal.
No, it looks like it's part of the goal here. That's why I'm.
So that last sentence should not be part of the goal.
I don't know if that needs.
I think it's two different thoughts. It's not.
Right. And then obviously that last bullet, now that we have participation on committees, it will be undertake committee recommendations. That moves to the next thing as well.
That's a continuation too.
Because we've already done that one.
But it's been a continuation from this school board all the time, right? It's not it's just a continuation,
Committees
right?
are,
It's really what comes out of it. It's not really.
committees aren't really going to be recommending that the Board of Education do certain things. So they're going to be giving input into different areas that they're discussing. They're looking at programs.
For the school, not for the. Yeah, not the board.
Yeah, no, they're just going to be giving input back to what's happening and the possibilities of what could happen.
Right.
as information for administration as they are looking at different things. So our job, our goal is to say, okay, let's have a process that committees can function and give input back in and have discussions about different things. It's not really about making recommendations.
Right, and does that even need to be a goal then?
You
Would
know,
that be a part of that, or?
I almost see bullet 1 as being how we're gonna get there. Than an objective, right?
Yeah, I think part of what Tim said could go in that, and
Well, I guess to continue implementing the mentoring program, that is part of improving school culture.
Can we, get back to that one? We don't have to solve it tonight, right?
No, we don't.
Let's go to the second one.
We
We
need
don't
to
be here all
adopt
night.
it soon,
We
yeah.
can get back, look at one individually, go to the second one. We have concerns.
it's really too all over the place to be. I agree with that. Let's go to 2.
Okay, let's see if we can resolve 2.
this is more focused at least.
These are clear objectives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We know what the expectations are. I think that's what we need in goal 1 is clear expectations.
So, and some of the stuff is redundant. It
Yes.
covers it better than it does in number 1, so we should get rid of committees from goal number 1,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And,
committees, attendance, right?
Establish
Yeah,
board committees.
if you guys could take,
You have increased family involvement here. You have increased community outreach engagement, include opportunities for student voice.
yeah, so can you go back to number 1, and so I can just read that again, the actual goal.
And we're reading it without that
Says
sentence.
it this month.
Okay, so we're skipping family involvement in that first goal because we're really going to be,
Yeah,
the communication goal will improve, will contain more of that.
yeah, we had, Board of Ed committees in both places.
Yeah, and they have different roles, but they don't necessarily need to be.
So I think number 2 is pretty good the way it is.
And 1 we can just chip away at, like we've been saying, we at least have a few things we know we can take out already, so that's helpful.
Julie, could you scroll back up for,
Sure.
bring us up to 2 and I guess 3 there?
I think 3 is pretty good.
We just start off on the wrong foot. We're mostly together, actually. In retrospect, this is, okay. Pulled it
But
back.
I don't know that we actually need the first 2 bullets here. Continue to engage elected officials,
Right.
and which is what we always,
We always do
we
that.
do that.
We're very
And take a proactive approach to improve and maintain safe schools and well-maintained facilities and grounds. We do that also.
Yeah.
So I think the reviewing the
The
budget.
first
things,
2 can
yeah,
come off?
I would, yeah. If that's okay with everyone else. Because the other, investigate ways to expand upon sources of revenue is more important to have in there than the
Mhm.
first one, and it's sort of, that's a little redundant too. And that 5-year financial forecasting
Is
is
important.
very important. As actually is the 5-year building plan, which we don't have on there. Which we need to be working on, right?
Yes.
Required,
Yeah,
right?
so that should actually,
well, it would be part of the physical forecasting. That would be.
well, no, this is financial forecasting. We're talking
You need the
about
5-year building plan.
building plan.
But that should be all in.
The finances.
That should be in. It should be the same kind of. It's about budgeting a 5-year plan.
For facilities.
Well, you could say financial building.
Yeah, I mean, typically, you do a long-range financial planning,
Right.
Right.
You
but
gotta
that,
include that in there, right?
yeah, but the long-range financial planning will project what you think the economy is gonna be doing, what your tax rate's gonna be doing, but the building facilities will be in there, but sometimes they do have a separate 5-year building plan in and of itself, but we can incorporate it either way, it can go either way.
Well, I thought we had to have a 5-year building plan.
We do, we
Yeah.
have one, we just need to,
That has to get updated this year.
yes.
No,
No.
we just did it.
Oh, right, okay.
Now we have to prioritize, what are we gonna
Yeah.
pick off this year? What are we gonna pick off
So
second year,
that's already
third
been
year?
done. That's a goal that's already been done.
Okay.
Do you want us to
Take a
go
look.
back and rework number one
Yeah, well,
and
it's-
with a
it's
focus
obvious.
on,
It's obvious, to me anyway, that no, the first goal has always been the most difficult for this school.
student achievement
Student achievement
and culture?
and culture and articulating what it is. So that's why it's so difficult for us sitting here trying to do this. It really does have to be defined in a way that we can successfully be able to understand student achievement in this building and the culture.
But maybe that's piggybacking too much together, because those are different things. I mean,
No.
focusing on student achievement is a lot.
It's the
no?
same. It's, you have to have a culture of, a culture that breeds student achievement. You have to have that together. It's not something.
Can one of our goals then be define what success looks like when improving school culture and student achievement?
That's where you get into the nitty gritty of, I want 95% participation rate in state testing. I want achievement rates of good standing for math and
Right.
science and
Well,
ELA.
don't you also want a child that's progressive rate?
Some of the
That
how.
doesn't have to be the goal. It's
So
progressive rate.
individual student progress.
Well, you want to set, if you're setting a goal, your objective should be how to get to that goal. So you want to increase student achievement. First, you got to know what is student achievement.
Right.
And then where do you want to be?
And then how.
And then some of the objectives should be focused on that. Looking at the data to decide, what steps need to be taken in order to improve instruction. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's in there, and it's tough for me because it's always been the most difficult thing to do in any school I've been associated with, is get a grip on what is student achievement and how to provide a consistent way of showing that over time. The state would love to say, well, look at your state testing, but that's been probably one of the most inconsistent things over the last 5 or 6 years that I've ever seen. I mean, it's always been all over the place.
Well, the student achievement, is it shown by the growth in a classroom over the course of the year?
Or is it shown just by their testing,
I don't know.
But when it comes to
I
school
mean,
culture, there's a lot more than just what
Well,
the
we
testing
have-
is going to show.
We have to decide, I think, what it is we want to
Right.
see that's going to say to the public, say to our parents, say to our community, how our kids are achieving. What is it they're achieving? And I don't know, we've got to find some indicators that show that, some key elements that are involved in looking at student achievement and making some assumptions.
And is that test related, or is that every teacher
It could be test related, it could be
having a report on how their whole class is doing, students are doing at the end of the year?
Well, I think it would be,
it could be showing evidence of growth over time.
that's what I'm saying, progressive growth.
Yeah, it could be a variety of things. I would like to hear some input from you guys of what do you think it would look like? You're on the front lines of student achievement. What does it look like for you? What do you want to see? How can you communicate it to us and to the community as a goal? How can we better communicate that to the community and the board, student achievement here at Springs? How could that be communicated better? I'm just throwing out
Right.
thinking.
Well, yes, I mean, how is our administration judging student achievement? Right?
That'd be really important.
We have lots of measures that we use.
Yeah.
And which one works best for you?
No.
Oh, there's multiples, right?
And then you have to account, as you drive toward that, what are you accounting for in school culture, right? Because as you drive toward a goal, are you limiting casual casualties along the way, right? I mean, we want test scores to reflect the success and student achievement, but how are we getting there? How are we accounting for that culture? If we're leaving that improved school culture as a goal, it can't just be about the testing.
No.
And actually, those are not tests, they're assessments,
Yes.
right?
Assessments. But I mean, it's got examples you already have. You're doing a lot of the, with teacher mentoring. You're doing a lot of the cooperation between other departments. So we're now working together as one. That's an achievement for school. It's, how did that work out for the students? Is it better than our students' education? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
As taxpayers, they want to know what we're spending our money on. And,
When-
but as the board, we
How
want
do
to
you, how do we better diagnose, prescribe, and assess what's happening in every classroom?
Yeah.
How do we
It's not by our current APPR plan.
So maybe that the goal is, you can come back to us with, what can the school do to get to that point of being able to articulate how we diagnose, prescribe, and assess our student success academically?
That alone is a goal.
Okay, so then that's,
That
why
alone,
don't you pick one?
Yeah, no, again, that's why it's been so difficult, is because it is.
that's a goal, just to determine what it is, define
I think
success.
Ms. Cleary brought that up a little.
So that's what, so
bit.
you can't, I think
Right?
Tim said it too, you
There's a lot
can't
of
start
competing
without that.
priorities.
Yes, I mean,
And
I wanna
it's
get
very hard.
if you want to talk about that again, that'd be great.
I think one of the challenges in a K through 8 school in a community like ours is that there's a lot of competing priorities. And we like to say yes to everybody so everybody gets what they want and what they need. But in order to achieve measurable goals, you have to have focus.
Right.
And I feel, as Tim said, we're kind of all over the place. And it has to be a collective decision. What are we moving toward? Because if you're setting a goal for academic achievement, whatever that is going to be defined and whatever that looks like, whether it's in the eyes of the state or the eyes of the public, that may look very different to somebody who feels it comes like, say, at tons of field trips, whereas somebody else says, well, that's about seat time and instructional time in the classroom. Those are competing priorities. So I think we have to decide as a school district.
Is that something we should be talking to administrative about, or do you think it should be coming to the school board?
It's not a discussion the board really can have. It's our goal. So it's important for administration to ask those questions and get involved with, okay, what are we really doing? How are we best using our time? It's like Christine, because she just said, is it about how much time do kids really have in instruction in a classroom during the day? What kind of interruptions happen every day that take kids, we have DARE programs, we have push-in programs, we have pull-out programs. How much real instructional time is really taking place in the core academic areas? That's a good question to ask. And do we need more of that than less? So maybe other things have to go to the wayside until we get a better sense of what really is taking place in the classroom and how that instruction is helping our students grow over time. From kindergarten to 8th grade, we have this opportunity to help them grow in lots of different ways. And how we use our time is going to be really critical in order to accomplish and to understand how that time is used and what the results of that time. So that's why I go back to diagnosing and prescribing and assessing.
Well, Tim, I think you're bringing up something really important, because suddenly it seems to me like maybe this goal one is actually premature, and there's something else that has to be established first before we can really ask that question. So maybe our goal for this year is figuring out how we are judging that, how that is being figured out.
Is it working
And
or
then-
not working?
Instead of talking about improving something, we need to figure out what something is first before we can say that we're going to improve it.
It's like we were talking about all kinds of, we assess our programs. So we assess science, we assess art, music. no one's really taking the time to really assess, like, overall, all the things that are happening and how they're affecting this whole way we march our children through our pre-K through 8 program.
Right. Well, you had a really good sentence before, and I forgot what it was about that. You wrapped up the issue in a nutshell of what we need to be.
I don't remember what I said.
Well, we have video, we have video.
Your videos.
I'll replay it for you
I think
Go to the tape.
You gotta find out what's working, what kind of school you wanna run, what kind of school you wanna have here, and what's gonna work, and but it's a lot of work to do
How
that.
we're viewing
But if-
achievement.
what
I think the goal is to figure out how do we view achievement.
Right, how do we?
I mean,
Defining the first step.
This
Yeah.
is, as a
we'll go back to
board,
goal.
Fine.
but as a board, this is our goal,
Right,
is for this school community, we want to know, have a better understanding of what's going on so that we can assess if it's okay, or it needs to be tweaked, or it needs to be looked at in different ways. It's to get a better sense of what we're doing in a consistent way. Or not, maybe everybody feels like they should be doing their own thing here. And maybe other people feel like we need more consistency over time, and there's no scope or sequence here, or their curriculum is disjointed. I mean, those are questions that you could start asking yourself to answer the goal of, who are we and what are we producing?
So is it improve school culture and student achievement through?
I don't have a problem with that.
Through increased understanding of how we're doing things. I mean, phrased better than that. That sounded very simple, and not talk about social emotional competence, self-regulation skills, because those are happening in classrooms all the time anyway, but pulling back to,
Well, those are objectives, getting to that goal of culture and achievement.
The problem that you run across with those two goals is they are in some respects diametrically opposed, because if you over tilt towards student achievement, it's like when we would do the family trip. Are you visiting the largest ball of yarn on the way, or are you just trying to get to your destination and everyone is exhausted? Are you stopping at hotels? Are you having meals? Are you doing that? So on our way to student achievement, how important is it for our school to account for culture in terms of the teachers and the students involved? And those are here. So that's what we're trying to define. Because as we start to focus more on tests and achievement and defining what that is locally or on a state level, and you start tilting that way, you will have fallout from a cultural perspective.
but Tim was
that's
just
what
saying
we're-
they're go hand in
and
hand.
we're-
though.
No, and that's
I'm talking
that's
about
the point.
I'm talking about balance.
And that
Where's
is
the
about,
balance?
and that's what we're trying to figure out.
Are we trying to do
Who are
too
we?
many? Are we trying to do too many things in a way that gets in the way of us really being able to achieve some things that we really need to be? Is it too wide? And it's like narrowing the focus. Should we be narrowing the focus a little bit in order to really get at how our kids are learning over time? And what is important? What are the things that are important for them to be exiting when they leave the 8th grade to go out of here from pre-K to 8? What are those habits and traits, or whatever you want to call it, skills, knowledge that they need to have? How do we get a grip on that?
So almost working backwards,
Yeah.
the end in mind. What's the end in mind so in high schools, they have graduation rates, they have colleges. What's the end in mind for our 8th graders?
Well, I've
Or
always
even
been trained,
earlier?
I've always been trained, you start with assessment first. Because your assessments are going to tell you if your diagnostic and your prescriptions are working. So, how do we assess our kids, and how do we use that information to inform instruction and what needs to happen next?
I think what this goal is saying, which is I think a nice thing, even though it's very easy to say it, is that we are accounting for school culture along the way to student achievement. Like somehow that needle that needs to be in the middle for us in some way is what I get from this goal.
Well, I don't think we're going for testing, we're just seeing what the advancement, the achievements we're making. not even geared towards testing. It's how we educate our kids along the way, and how they progress along the way. Not just basically the test, it's the assessment overall of the whole student, of each individual student. Because, I've been told before, 70 students stays at 70 students no matter what you do. How do you get past that? Right?
You want to see progress,
Yes.
not,
And are
not,
we progressing forward, are we progressing backwards, and are we looking?
Well, how you tell?
We don't know how.
You can't tell you're making progress until you
We
start.
gotta stop the baseline, just like the concussion.
Where you are, and then where you end up.
Yeah, it's no different than a concussion test. No baseline. And we have that from pre-K, to most of our students. Right?
I don't know, I just want to hear more about it.
Yeah.
let us go.
It sounds almost like actually the first bullet point should be the goal of utilize data, research, experience, and collaboration to inform instruction and strategic planning. And one of the bullets should be improving school culture and student achievement through development of social and emotional competence and self-regulation skills, because that's actually no? And that kind of got flipped around. Because you're talking about figuring out, how do we measure achievement? We would do that by utilizing data, researching and experience, and so I think maybe we have a little backwards there, and we need to change it around a bit.
I mean, that is the overarching thing, though, is that I think in what Tim's saying, if you're going to assess it, in your assessment, if you're holding that as a goal, your questions need to include specifically questions based on school culture, which is going to be SEL, how are you learning, learning fatigue, anything in that regard. You're throwing some of that in your assessment, and then on the other part of the assessment, you're defining that achievement, and that's the feedback that you're trying to get. Because to me, what we're saying is we want to have those things. We want to have improved school culture and student achievement, but
It's really hard
they're
because
not mutually exclusive.
it's really hard because you've got to think about, okay, is the scheduling working to get you where you want to be? The way you schedule, is it the way you use your curriculum getting you where do you want to be? Is the kinds of assessments you're using giving you the right information in order to get where you want to be? So it's really kind of figuring out.
Right, and then you have like what percent of your students are involved in after-school activities? What percent of your students participate in scholastic sports? What percent of your, what are your students doing in intramurals, music, art? I think that you want those numbers to be up while.
Yeah, but if you're doing all of that and not having enough time to get the instructional done that needs to get done for kids to learn over time, then you have a conflict.
Right, but I think that's what we need to learn in those states.
I think understanding that.
Understanding that.
I think.
But because of those two, because of that statement, I think you're informing on that, and that's how you can see is we have really low participation but high assessment on the one end, or we have kids are doing really well on this, but I guess that's just it. Is the questionnaire is sort of involving those two main. It's really you have culture and achievement, and in your assessment, you have to build for both, and then you're going to see if you're over tilted.
I'm stuck on the word culture.
So how about
that word?
Because it's getting late. How about if we say this? We've had this discussion, run some things out to you guys. Maybe the next time we meet, come back with kind of a wordsmith of what we've kind of been talking about in some ways, get a sense of how you're thinking about it, what that would mean for you.
Or are you totally confused now? How do you deal with
I
it?
see this as 7 separate
agree?
goals. So I see it
Yeah, I
completely
think we can,
differently.
but
I
again,
see,
just-
I box this out as 7 separate goals. I mean,
It's totally.
this to me is the most dense goal I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Because that's what we do here. We throw everything in because we want to do it all.
I know.
But that's not how goal setting works, and that's not how focusing works and prioritizing works. And I think and I think we're all feeling that way right now. It's just hard to define that, but I think that's what we have to do is have these conversations and define things first, and then get our comfort level, and then start setting goals. Because for me, like I said, improving school culture, and I think you're getting towards this, Eric, too. You're seeing it as school culture and achievement. While they don't have to be polar opposites, they're going to have very, very different measurable
Right.
objectives,
That's
right?
a really nice statement to stay.
Yeah.
But that's
But
really
when you break
hard
it
task
down,
Yeah.
for you guys to get there. I think that's the overall point. I think that's what we're challenged
But
with
not
too.
making it so dense, but just pulling out the things you feel like
sure,
you need
Right.
to do in order to fulfill that goal.
yeah. And I
then-
think there's things we do that need improvement,
Right,
and there's things that we do really well already that are
Right.
checking all the boxes.
but just pick out 2 or 3 things that
Okay.
would really
Yeah.
get us to that
We
point.
can do that, sure.
Our identity rests on that. So, you know,
You guys handle the logo, I'll handle the identity. We'll be good to
we
go.
couldn't even get through the logo.
It's not easy, I know.
No,
I've
it's
been sitting
not.
in your seat, but it somehow it needs to be defined or agreed upon
Mhm. Agreed.
instead of going all over, oh, I want this, I want that, and then all of a sudden, we're more than,
And you're spread too thin,
and we give you, we're more than,
you're
over the years.
more
we
than
give-
generous.
yeah,
There- Yeah.
And it just, all of a sudden, it just becomes this huge kind of thing that there's so many things going on, and you
It
lose
loses-
the direction.
yep,
In a way,
correct.
you lose the focus, and see if we can get the focus back.
There are some goals that districts have set to get back to pre-pandemic, to return those things that represent your culture, your district, and we have been trying to get back to all those things.
Who we are,
Yeah.
What our kids, how we want our kids to leave here.
Yeah, a refocus on education and those things, and not all that other stuff you were having to focus on for 2 years, desk placement and,
Screens,
all the screens and,
math.
yeah. So, okay.
Back to
Right.
basics.
Yeah, all right.
Mm.
Written caller?
Oh, yes, thank you, Julie. LTV, did anyone call in about our goals?
No, we have no callers on the line.
They would
Okay.
stay with me. I don't blame them.
They've gone to sleep.
What are those people talking about? Do they know? No, they don't
Oh,
know.
my gosh. Okay, I think we've got a lot to think about, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you.